So what are the bombs in Wonders of the First Existence set? There's never been a list made, so let's make a list. Everybody, welcome to Wonders Workshop, and this is the place to be if you are wondering what's going on in the Wonders world. Today, like I said, we are going to be talking about what the bombs in existence are. If you are not familiar with that term, it's a pretty common term in card games. But we see it most frequently when we're using Capricorn's bad taste acronym. The B is for bomb. And Cap, I had him help me a little bit with this list as well as Hanging Bananas. So huge shout out there to both of them for their help. If you see me looking over here, it's because I've got my notes on that side. Cap, when I have talked to him about it, defines a bomb as a single card that provides enough value to outvalue a combination of your opponent's cards. Another way to think about a bomb is a game-ending play that your opponent basically can't respond to. So these are big cards that win you the game and basically make your opponent's life very, very, very difficult. And you can think of these, and thanks for Hanging Bananas for phrasing it this way, you can think of these as a big net positive for you or a huge net negative for your opponent. And we'll see a couple of examples of those. And as I point them out, as I'm talking about these, I will point out a few examples of net positives for you, net negatives, or both. Because they can be both as well. And so today I've got a list of true bombs and then some circumstantial bombs that, they're not really bombs, but if you played them in the right circumstance, they could be. And y'all see what I mean. Y'all will see what I mean when I get to those. And then, of course, there is a card that, if y'all think about it, you'll guess. There's a card that is on its own in the list because of circumstances. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and hop over to the Wonders Codex. So, on the list of true bombs, I've just got these in alphabetical order. Agaric Supreme is my first one. Agaric Supreme, it's got 9 cost, 7 power. As a tap action, put a -1 counter on each enemy wonder, banish all of target player's cards in the abyss. That would be a bomb on its own because that is hugely decreasing and it wrecks anybody who's doing anything in the abyss. But here's the thing. The on-battle ability is even crazier. On battle, enemies in this realm with power less than this wonder's power get base power 0. There's a lot of wonders that are lower than base power 7, especially if you're putting -1 counters on them. And there's not a lot of wonders that are above power 7. So this can be game ending very easily, very, very easily. And so that's the first example of a bomb. Azure Sky Citation. Actually, I'm just going to leave those both up there because both of the cards with the word Azure in their name are bombs. Azure Sky Citation is a 10 cost, power 13 wonder with on arrival, create a 5 power Aula token with wonder with flying in this realm. And the Azure Sky Citation itself has flying. Now, you might be saying, Grace, how does this outvalue everything else? Well, flying 13 power is just about game ending on its own unless you have something to destroy it on the spot. Because 13 flying and flying to and from every different realm can end the game. But then, on top of that, you get 2 5 power tokens with flying. And they can go in different directions. So you have 10 power going one way and 13 power going the other way. Unless your opponent's got something really good set up for that's just not happening. The Azure Vault, I also put on the list. Your lands and items not named Azure Vault can't be tapped, targeted, destroyed, nullified, or controlled by opponents or opponents' cards. These are 2 examples of a huge net positive for you with Azure Sky Citation and a huge net negative for your opponent with Azure Vault. Azure Vault could kind of be a little bit circumstantial, but let's be honest, we all need lands, and we all typically need items. And I don't know of a deck that doesn't use some sort of tapping, targeting, destroying, nullifying, or controlling. So pretty much you're going to be stopping your opponents from doing something. And so I think it's a good thing to make the list here. Next is words that it would help if I spelled correctly. Type the L, please, computer. Blauzafell. This is perhaps one of the best examples of a bomb. Tap action, banish this, target player loses all energy and actions. If you have no energies and no actions, you can't respond to this. It's also a pretty chunky boy at power 9. So he's going to be doing a lot of damage, and he's just going to be saying, you don't get to play this round, most likely. So he's a huge threat on board, and if you see him, he's typically a kill on sight. Commander Batherol is another example. On round start, after gaining energy at the start of the round, each player spends 2 energy for each stone they control, or the stone returns to the center. And that would be pretty bad. But opponents can't gain energy from stones. So in round 7, your opponent has to give all their stones back because they don't, or even some of them, because they don't have the energy to pay for them. Then the whole game resets in some ways, because that's just huge. If nobody controls the stone, a tie doesn't matter. Well, it does. It stays where it is. But if you can get 1 extra power, or something from a quick bonus, and then you go back to being a tie, then you get to keep the stone versus they get to keep the stone. So very good option there. And then perhaps the most obvious, most well-known bomb is Cosmic Cataclysm. This card is absolutely insane. 8 cost to create. Basically 3 wonders, 3 4-power angel token wonders with flying. All right, so we spend 1 action, and we get 3 wonders and 2 free attacks. That's up net 4 actions, basically. Also, like I said, getting that many tokens with flying, even if they're cost power 4 and not power 5, is insane. And the 2 free attacks is also game ending if you're playing to the end of the game, and can be game ending in sealed very, very easily. If you pull this card, you're playing this card in sealed, unless you're crazy, in my opinion. It's just one of the best game enders in the game. Courageous Heart Emblem is another good bomb, although you have to set this upright, but it can still be a bomb. On round 7, this gets attuned Tallwind. If there are no enemies in this realm at the end of round 7, gain control of target stone here. There are going to be times when there will be no enemies in a realm, and you just play this as pretty much one of the last actions, and boom, you have claimed a realm, just like that. It's a huge thing. If you play it at the right time, people can't respond to it. So, bomb right off the bat. Death Marcher Knight. On battle, put a null counter on each enemy in this realm. Remove any number of counters and this round effects from them. That's also insane. And nulling everything in a realm is insane on its own, but it also comes with 9 power. So, and it's not like this is an on-playability. This is an on-battle ability. If you have a way to move Death Marcher Knight, then he does this in realm after realm after realm. On his own, it's a bomb, but if you could move him, it would be insane. I believe Drogothar is... Let me see if I add that, if it gets... Yeah. Drogothar the Destroyer. Tap free, spend X energy, put X -1 counters on each enemy in this realm. Flying. Need I say more? You got a lot of energy. You fly from realm to realm. Well, you can do that. If you can untap him, you could do this a bunch of times. Or you could just do this once and completely empty out a realm and have claim to it with a 10-power wonder. I realized that, I said earlier that a Garrick Supreme, not a lot of things have higher power than that. and I'm showing you things that have higher power than that, but we're looking at a list of bombs, and most of the bombs have really high powers. That's part of what makes them bombs. Dwarven Vault is another good example of a bomb in a unique way. Stones can't be seized from you from battles in this realm. If they can't take the stone from you, that's a huge advantage. And you have to be able to get rid of this item. It doesn't matter what wonders are there. You could have Drogothar there. You could have somebody could play Cosmic Cataclysm and they still wouldn't be able to take the stone in this realm from you. So I think it's almost, I almost put it on the circumstantial list, but it's just so good. And you can run 3 copies of it. Eternitum. There we go. Helps when I spell things right. Eternitum the Space Lich. Whenever a card arrives from anywhere other than from a hand, you may banish it. If you do, put 2+1 counters on this. And I know you might be asking yourself if you haven't seen this card in play before, but Grace, how is this bomb? Well, cards arrive from anywhere other than the hand a lot more than you would think in Wonders. Something returning from the graveyard, something being, I assume it would be sought, although I guess seeked is more flavorful and more representative. Something, when you use the seek ability to pull something out of your deck, if there's like a million ways in Wonders to play things from anywhere other than your hand. And most decks do that at some point. And you're basically banishing anything that your opponent plays not from their hand, which is a very common strategy. And you're bulking this already 5 power guy up a lot. And tokens, as it says here at the bottom, tokens count as cards. Any tokens arrive not from the deck, pretty much, not from the hand. So this is going to be even crazier when Call of the Stones comes out and we're making story tokens. So very much so a bomb. And then Fungolith Colossus. Fungolith, if I get rid of it. Yep. Fungolith Colossus, 12 power, massive. On arrival, put up to 4/-1 counters on target wonder. On battle, banish target card in the abyss. If you do, gain 4 energy. So you're probably destroying a wonder if you're putting 4/-1 counters on it, or just bringing its power down so much that it just can't do anything about this 12 power. Secondly, every time you do battle with this card, you're banishing a card in the abyss. You can banish a card in the abyss and gain 4 energy. Energy in the last round is huge. And if you don't have a lot of graveyard recursion or abyss recursion in your deck, you are just banishing crap from your graveyard left and right and gaining lots of energy. So this is a bomb not just because of its massive power, but because of the other things that it can do as well. After Fungolith is Galactic Sovereign Throne. I think we all know this by now. When this is untapped, enemies with on-arrival abilities are nullified. Tap free while this is tapped. Enemies with tap abilities are nullified. On-arrival abilities being nullified is insane. Every single orbital has cards with on-arrival abilities. I have yet to see a deck. I'm fairly certain I have yet to see a deck without a card, a singular card with an on-arrival ability. And then, when it's tapped, enemies with tap abilities are nullified. Tap free or just tap. Or tap action. Like, that's insane. Because if you see something you don't like, you just go, no, I'm going to tap my Galactic Sovereign Throne, and you don't get to do what you were going to do. And you can play 2 of them in your deck. It's insane. Many of us know why this is a huge net negative for your opponent. Many of us have played against this and know why it's a bomb. Gyrois Cygnus. It just sounds like he's named after a star. I'm guessing that's what that is. And he has each round, enemies can't attack more than once in each realm. Ascend, this gets +4. Going up to an 8 power wonder would be very impressive on its own for 4 cost. But it's this first line of text. Each round, enemies can't attack more than once in each realm. Tracking this ability can be a little frustrating. I've played with him before, and I have to be like, they've attacked in this realm, they've attacked in this realm. We should make up a signifier for that, a counter or something. But not being able to attack more than once in each realm is kind of crazy. Because if you think about it, think about how many times you might attack, your opponent might take it, you might play something else, and then you attack again. I know not everybody does that, but I've seen that play out multiple times in games, so this card is just insane that it shuts that down completely. I assume we all knew this card was going to be on here. Jirambe. 10 cost, 10 power, tap action, destroy target stone. If this leaves play, banish it. You literally just go, yeah, that thing that you needed to win, that fourth stone that you controlled in comparison to my 3, it doesn't exist anymore. It's insane, and there's nothing you can do about it. I have no words for how crazy powerful this card is. Y'all should all know where this next card is going. Luminous Scarab. If you haven't already heard, this card is insane. On attack, you put a null counter on target land. Not target land in this realm, just target land. If you get this out early, which can be done with Moonfire Crystal Mice, there's a reason that this card is one of the cards up that we are all speculating is going to get a DBS increase. If you get this out early game and you just null every single one of your opponent's lands, your opponent can't play. It's absolutely insane, and you can play 3 of them if you wanted. 3 of them. Insane. Another card that we are probably all familiar with, Omnis Quantum. 6 cost, 8 power. Ascend, pick even or odd. Opponents can't play cards with that base cost this round. Ascend, this gets +4. I think most people have played against something like this where somebody either can't play all the cards in their hand because somebody looks at the cards that's in their hand and they know, okay, I need to pick evens or I need to pick odds. Or somebody gets this to ascend twice. And you pick odd for one and even for the other. Now, those are combining this card, but even just being able to pick odds or evens on its own and just locking your opponent out of playing half the cards in the game, it's a bomb. There is no question. But also, it's 12 power in round 7. Razia, Balakai, another example. He's attuned, so you don't even spend an action for him. And then tap free, so another not action. And he's 9 power. Tap free, target wonder gets +5 this round. Another target wonder gets -5 this round. It swings the entire math in 3 realms. You've heard Cap talk about this. I don't need to go into huge detail about it. For no actions. It's insane. And so I just think that card is a huge bomb. And I know many people agree with me. Sirius Aether Blade is another example. Opponents' items with cost 2 or less and enemies with cost 2 or less are nullified. He's a really great answer to a lot of things, but also he can just be oppressive on his own. Tokens are cost 0, so those aren't allowed. And there's a lot of things with cost 2 or less in Wonders. Summon, please allow me to type correctly. Summon Crushing Rock. Huge cost, but destroy all wonders in target realm. As a part of this cost, you may sacrifice an untapped land. If you do, this costs 3 less. Just get rid of a whole realm. If you have no wonders in this realm, just destroy all of your opponent's wonders in the realm. It's absolutely insane and completely changes the balance of the game, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Utterly complex compound bow. On arrival, put a shield counter on this. Equipped wonder gets on battle, draw 2 cards, gain 1 energy, and put 2 -1 counters on target enemy. And it's attuned on top of that, so it's free to play. It does not cost you an action. And every time the wonder it's equipped to battles, you get to draw 2 cards. That's basically 2 whole actions. You gain an energy, and you put 2 -1 counters on target enemy. Basically, you could just keep using this and moving it down and down and moving your enemy's wonders down and down in power till they die. It's insane. Oh, I'm not gonna. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. I can always remember that it has no-go. The codex seems to be a little bit weird about apostrophes, but I'm not absolutely sure. So War No-Go, Nature's Firstborn. We've all seen this card. We all know this card. It's insane. This is the last true bomb on my list. On play, put a growth counter on up to 3 target lands. They are legendary wonders with power equal to the number of lands you control. They are still lands. Note that it doesn't say lands you control. You can do this to have a huge net positive for you, give a bunch of more power in your realms, or if your opponent has played T-set, do it to your opponent's wonders. Make it so that, and then attack, and then they have to claim the stone, and then they switch back to you. It's insane. Cap has done some really good videos about War No-Go. And so those are the lists of true bombs in wonders. There's one card, like I said, that I have on its own separate list, and that's the Prisoner. Because she's not free. If she was free, she would be on the bomb list so hard. If the Prisoner is free, it gets Eternal. Look at the top. Look at target player's hand. You control all of their choices on their next turn. Controlling your opponent's choices on their next turn, for sure, is a huge bomb and is a huge way to provide significant value, outvaluing everything else your opponent does. At least I would think that it is. So that brings us to the circumstantial bombs. Aetherian of Boundless Theory. He is circumstantial because he kind of needs, at least until the 7th round when his Ascend triggers, he needs your opponent to be playing Nullify for his ability to really matter. Yes, in the meta right now, Nullify is extremely popular, so chances are your opponents are going to be playing Nullify, but not necessarily in Sealed, not necessarily in all the times you might be thinking about how do I build a deck with using appropriate bombs. So he's really good card, definitely can be a bomb. It just has to be the right situation. Autumn is another perfect example of this. Autumn, Essence Animated. Tap free, banish this, shuffle all wonders you own in the Abyss, distribute them as evenly as possible in all realms, face down, then flip them up. Each opponent does the same. This is great. If you have a bunch of creatures, if you have a bunch of wonders in your Abyss, and your opponent doesn't. If your opponent has more wonders in their Abyss, or more wonders with on-arrival abilities that can be game-ending, this can lose you the game. So you have to be careful with some of these circumstantial bombs. They're great. If you set them up right, they drop and they change the board state and there's nothing your opponent can do about it. But if you play them wrong, you can lose the game because of them. And that's where a lot of these cards are. This is why a lot of these cards are on this circumstantial list. Corruption Warp, my favorite, my proof. Destroy all wonders that aren't legendary. This is great, but if you have no legendaries and your opponent has legendaries, then things go sideways. It's not good. And you'll see that that's the pattern with a lot of these cards. Desolation. Each player sacrifices a wonder or item in each realm where they control a stone. That includes you. If you have to sacrifice a wonder or an item that is keeping you in the game because you play this, or if you sacrifice the wonder or item in the realm where you control a stone, and it is a worse sacrifice than what your opponent has to sacrifice, you might have just handed them the game. You just have to be aware of stuff like this with these circumstantial bombs. God's Eye Release, banish all primary and legendary wonders. It's the same thing with Corruption Orb. If your opponent has more secondary wonders with better abilities, you lose the game, unless you're comboing it with something else that, like Eternatum, where stuff is getting... I don't think Eternatum actually benefits off banish. Off of something that benefits from banish. Mirage Terrain. I really wanted to put this on the true bomb list, but here's the thing. You need a true bomb for this to copy for it to be a bomb. So target land becomes a copy of target wonder. If you have it become a copy of any of these like super crazy powerful wonders, it's a bomb in and of its own right. But it needs that other card to do it. So I had to put it on the circumstantial list. Murkmire, Incarnate. On arrival, tap all lands, sacrifice action, destroy all tapped lands. It's great. It can end a game for you or for your opponent. If you play this and you don't get the timing right and you destroy all your lands or tap all of your lands and you don't get any actions out of it and your opponent has already gotten all their actions, that's not a good thing for you. Not a good thing. So again, it's circumstantial. Path of Light is on here for... I need of, Grace. Path of Light. This round, nullify all items and lands, including those that arrive later this round. This applies to you too. If you don't get your best cards out before you play this and you don't have a plan, you're screwed. And so that's why a lot of these are on the list, because if you don't play them right, you're screwed. Purpurea the Mystic Flame. On play, banish the lowest numbered realm. Flying. That's great. If you're losing in the lowest numbered round, or if you have a plan to take back the lowest numbered realm, but not so good otherwise. Quantum Quell. For the rest of this round, wonders and items can only be played in target realm. It's attuned. Great, we love attuned. But here's the thing. This pigeonholes you into the realm too. If this doesn't help you, if you need to take back multiple realms in round 7, this is going to hurt you more than it helps. And then the last one, Stellar Harmony T-Set. You've heard me talk about this earlier in this video. Sacrifice free. You and target opponent switch control of all stones. At the end of the round, switch control of those stones again. If you're already controlling the majority of the stones, if you control 6 or 7 of the stones, this would not be a good play for you. And so it's really something with these circumstantial wonders that you need to think about with the strategy. With the others, it's a little bit more you play it and it does what it does, and you might have to strategize about where to play it, but you don't have to figure out, if I do this at the wrong time, is it going to end the game for me and hand the win to my opponent? I was really excited to make this list. I know that, you know, as I'm learning a new game, I want to see a list of like, what are the best cards? How do I know what a good card looks like? And so for me to be able to make a list like this and say, hey, here's some of the best cards, here's some of the best bombs, it feels really helpful. And for me, I'll be able to go in when I play limited the next time, or sealed, I don't know which term we're using for which right now. I'll be able to go, okay, I know these are the cards that I need to be on the lookout for, versus having to, like I did in the video where I was, how do you win it sealed? I was having to go like, okay, I think this is a bomb because of this. And some of the cards that I classified in that game as bombs, I didn't put on this list because I'm learning. And that's the great thing about playing card games. You are learning as you go. And it's a lot of fun, and you're going to make mistakes. And that's the joy of it. You make mistakes, you play, you have fun. So this is what I've got for you today. I will be also putting this list in a Google Doc that will be accessible, and I'll put the link for that in the video below, in the description below. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. Feel free to challenge me if there's a card you think should be on this list, or if you're like, that shouldn't be circumstantial, or that shouldn't be a bomb. Let me know in the comments. I love having conversations. And please just keep being your wonderful selves.